Hi, it's Nick from the Run Testers, and this is our review of the Saucony Endorphin Trail. So the Endorphin Trail is the first trail shoe in Saucony's very popular Endorphin line. Obviously last year we saw the release of the Endorphin Pro carbon racing shoe, the Endorphin Speed kind of nylon plated do-it-all fast training shoe, and the Endorphin Shift, kind of a big heavy cruiser designed for your kind of easy miles. The Endorphin Trail brings basically some of the key technology from those road shoes into a big maximally cushioned trail shoe. But the Endorphin Trail comes in at the same price as the Endorphin Speed. It's £155 in the UK or $160 in the US. Anyone who's seen the channel know I'm a big fan of the Endorphin Speed, so I was kind of hoping this was going to be an Endorphin Speed for the trails, but I think it's kind of as soon as I got it home and weighed it, I could see that kind of wasn't what Saucony were aiming for here. This is a heavy shoe. It's 349 grams in my UK size 9, which is 12.3 ounces. I won't lie, kind of pulling it out of the box and seeing that number on the scales did dampen my enthusiasm for the shoe a little bit, but you know, shoes can run a lot lighter than their weight, and I was still really excited to go and give it a try. Because it's basically got some of the really good stuff from the road shoes, like I said. So you've got the PWRRUN PB foam in the midsole. That's Saucony's PBA-based foam. That's kind of, it is soft and it is springy, but not really, it doesn't make the shoes feel like things like the Nikes, the Vaporfly, or New Balance's fuel cell foam shoes, mainly because of Saucony's Speedroll technology, which is also in the shoes. It's kind of the whole design of the shoe, the kind of geometry and the kind of tech in there, designed to give it quite a nice rolling sensation as you run to make for a kind of very smooth, efficient ride. That's in the Endorphin Trail as well, and the stack of PBA foam here is huge. You're looking at a 36.5mm like stack at the heel, and there's only a 4mm drop to the shoe. Stacked almost as big as the Endorphin Shift, the kind of comfy cruiser in the road shoe lineup. So yeah, this is a big max stack comfy trail cruiser is what kind of the design screams to me. Interestingly, the outsole has got Saucony's PowerTrack rubber, but the lugs are kind of 4.5mm long, and they're quite widely spaced, these kind of chevron lugs, and to me that really suggests it's a soft ground shoe, and that's kind of how I found it when I've been running. It's been really good at finding grip on kind of softer ground. Often with these kind of max stack shoes, I always kind of think they're geared more towards harder trails, kind of flatter trails. But that was quite interesting to see, and that kind of outsole kind of material I've used in other Saucony shoes. It's really good at not holding on to mud as well, so you get grip and then it sheds the mud. So I was pleased to see that outsole on there. Obviously, those big lugs and the large stack of foam are really where the weight's coming from the shoe, and the upper's quite built up as well. There's like, you know, a nice reinforced section around the front there, lots of cushioning at the back, quite a big heel counter to kind of add stability when you are dealing with that high stack. Whole kind of shoe rises up with a kind of booty design. It's not a shoe with a tongue. It's kind of you slip on and actually having the you've got obviously the loop on the back and the kind of booty kind of tongue non-tongue sticking up. It's quite easy to pull on and off actually, and it does actually create quite a nice hold, that upper, I found. So yeah, it's even though there's not really got like the lacing system to do kind of the traditional heel lock I would do on trail shoes, but yeah, I've had quite a secure, comfortable fit with that upper, I found. For me, the shoe fit true to size. I actually found it quite easy to get a nice lockdown fit, despite the fact there wasn't those kind of extra lace holes for the kind of heel lock kind of lacing that I normally do in trail shoes. It's nice and comfortable around the forefoot. There's obviously that big toe bumper there, but I didn't find that my toes would hit that you know, in an uncomfortable way when running down steep hills in the shoe. And like I said, it's very easy to pull on and off. I've done about 74k in the Endorphin Trail, and that's kind of been on a bit of a mix of terrain. There's a forest near me, I run in quite a lot, and even though it's summer, it's been quite wet and sloppy in there. So I've done kind of in the forest on hard trails and kind of muddy trails in there, kind of canal towpaths, and then I've also just obviously run on the roads to and from those places. Yeah, my overall kind of impression is probably that this is quite a solid shoe that's kind of quite good at one particular thing, but it doesn't really live up to the excitement I had when I saw that there was an Endorphin shoe for the trails, as a big fan of the road shoes. First, this is not a pacey shoe. Like I did kind of one or two runs where I progressed from a kind of easy to steady pace in it, and you know, it just doesn't feel comfortable doing that on any kind of terrain. It is just big on the foot. It is heavy. You do notice the weight when you try and push the pace like that, and also just the size of it is a bit unwieldy. Like if you are trying to run quite fast on uneven ground, even though it's quite a stable shoe, if you do kind of land on the wrong kind of jagged edge or something, you know, you do get the kind of twist of your ankle, but you didn't actually twist my ankle, but you kind of the twist of the ankle as that high stack kind of tips you over a little bit. So yeah, I didn't find it a particularly pacey shoe to run in, and I kind of moved most of my running after the first kind of 20k on just kind of long, easy plodding in the shoe, and for that it is really quite good. Basically, at some points, yeah, I found that I just got into a really nice rhythm with it, and although I've not been trying to run hard, actually the pace has been quite good in it. Like I did a 20k in it yesterday and wasn't going out to run hard at all. I mean, really, at the end of a long training week, and I found that even over mixed terrain, up and down hills, my pace was really quite nice. I was just rolling through smoothly, and the benefits of that Speedroll tech were there. I think that kind of roll, though, only really comes in on fairly hard terrain, it has to be said. Even though the shoe has got that great outsole for soft terrain, you're not really getting much of the Speedroll effect there. I don't think. It just feels like a slightly big trail shoe. When you do get into like harder trails, and and especially when you're running downhill, actually, you do get a very smooth, like comfortable ride that you can kind of feel that you can just hold and hold and hold. Like I say, don't try and pick up the pace too much, because then it starts to feel cumbersome again. But yeah, at certain points you did get into a nice rhythm with it, where it did feel like the shoe was making life a little bit easier, and you didn't feel the weight of it at all. But it did have to be on quite hard ground for me to feel that, I found. But even when you are rolling through nicely, I still think the weight is a bit of a problem. So like I said, I've gone over 20k in the shoe on a single run. It's the first run I've done in it. It's just around a half marathon basically, and it felt nice, felt comfortable. I wasn't trying to push the pace at all, but the pace came quite naturally. But it still felt quite big and like kind of heavy by the end. And I've done all those kind of runs in lots of different trail shoes, and the fact that if you did knock 100 grams, 80 grams off the shoe, even without the Speedroll technology, those shoes do feel a bit better to run that kind of distance. Really the question is, having all that stack, is it going to be more protective if you do take it up to ultra distances, I guess, which obviously I haven't done in the shoe, but I don't know, like you can get max stack shoes from brands like Hoka, like the Speedgoat 4, that are a lot lighter, providing that kind of level of protection. And my personal preference on the trails is probably for slightly less protection, just because the trails do a lot of that, in their own way, like kind of softer ground, running on uneven ground doesn't carry the same kind of impact as you get from road running. To me, it feels like kind of a road running level of protection, a road running kind of Speedroll tech on a trail shoe, where so I guess if you are running on very hard kind of flat trails that almost mimic the feeling of running on road running, then maybe you will benefit from it. And then you do get the kind of benefit of the outsole as well, which is a really good outsole, I will say that. Like I've gone into quite deep mud in that shoe and I haven't had any problem like kind of slipping or falling over. It sheds the mud really quickly, so you're not carrying even more weight on afterward, which is good. And it also grips well on kind of wet roads, harder kind of rocky paths. Like I haven't had a single problem with grip on any of the terrains I've run on it. So running to and from the forest on the harder parts of the forest, or canal toe paths, which is kind of gritty and reasonably hard, or in fairly deep mud, it's performed really well across a range of conditions. It reminds me very much of like the Peregrine in Saucony's lineup, which I do think is a really good all-rounder trail shoe in terms of terrains, kind of geared slightly towards soft ground. I think very similar kind of feeling on grip with the Endorphin Trail, but then that in a way I think contradicts the rest of the kind of midsole and stuff, which I do think performs better on harder ground, flatter ground, when you do get the benefit of that kind of cushioning and protection and the Speedroll tech. So it ends up being a shoe that slightly works at cross purposes for me in a way. Also say at times there's a lot of stuff going on in the upper in terms of cushioning, and that I found that it did get a little bit warm at times. And again, if you think maybe that the ride of the shoe is best on kind of hard rocky trails, which to me screams like very sunny American conditions, I guess, maybe it would run a bit warm on those kind of runs. But yeah, so all in all, it was a shoe that has some nice points, but I feel like it doesn't always work cohesively, and at the end of the day, that bulk kind of just overrides everything for me in the kind of trail running I do, especially. Like even if I was going up to like a marathon distance on the trails, I wouldn't want this much shoe on my foot, I don't think. And even if I was going beyond that to ultra, like, I think the trade-off you're getting for that protection from all that foam is the weight, and that does start to tell after a while. And as soon as you kind of get out of the sweet spot of the kind of easy roll that I did find a couple of times in the shoe, it becomes a bit cumbersome, and that could be either because of terrain or because you've changed your pace slightly. All the ingredients are here for a really fantastic shoe. Like it's got the really good Saucony PWRRUN PB foam, it's got that really good outsole that I really rate on lots of shoes, it's got the Speedroll check, which I love in the Endorphin Speed and the Endorphin Pro, it's got a nice upper, it is comfortable, and that kind of booty design does work well. But all those elements don't seem to work together to me to produce a particularly great trail shoe. And overriding all of it is the fact it's just a bulky shoe. It's a big stack and it's got a fairly large amount of weight here. In terms of the Endorphin road shoes, this is very much closer to the Endorphin Shift than it is the Pro or the Speed, which are the shoes that I really like in the range, it's fair to say. But, Saucony has put a lot onto this shoe with the idea of making it a comfortable, protective cruiser of a shoe that can help you tick off miles. And in certain conditions, I definitely got that. Like on my longest run in the shoe, for the most of that run, it felt pretty good and I was rolling through nicely. The pace came easily. I did get that Speedroll feel to it. But as soon as, like I say, I picked up the pace more than that, even like a steady pace, or hit slightly sloppy terrain or more uneven terrain, when you needed to be a bit more nimble, then you don't get the benefits of that stuff. You don't feel the speed roll. You just feel like you've got a fairly big heavy shoe on that's not very agile and is more probably holding you back than you are getting the benefit of it. So in situations where you do feel all those great stuff, like if you are heading out for very long runs on fairly flat, hard terrain, that the kind of rocker and roller there you're getting there is kind of beneficial in the same way Saucony stuff is on their road shoes, and you are getting that combined with a really nice outsole that does grip well across a lot of stuff, although I do think is geared more towards soft ground, where the Speedroll doesn't work so well. So like I say, there's some good stuff here, and there's lots of very good individual elements, but I don't think the Endorphin Trail as a shoe really works for me overall. Personally, I think if you're going for that kind of very efficient, beneficial ride in a long distance trail shoe, the North Face Flight Vective with its carbon plate I think is better for that for me. Like, I had a couple of really great runs in that shoe. I had some problems basically with pain, a random pain just underneath my ankle with it, but it doesn't seem to be something that's cropping up for lots of people, so I think it's just maybe a weird little one-off thing for me that means I can't really enjoy the shoe. Also really like the Adidas Terrex Speed Ultra. That's a much less kind of high stack shoe. It's much lighter, but for me, with boost foam in there, you're getting enough protection for long runs on the trails, no problem. That's geared towards more harder ground in terms of the outsole as well, so is the North Face, whereas this does have the benefit of that outsole, which does work in kind of quite wet conditions, even when it's quite muddy. But if you're looking for kind of max stack trail shoes, I mean, Hoka is the brand that obviously comes to mind, and they, with their EVA foams, they do produce very protective high stack shoes that are still a lot lighter than the Endorphin Trail, things like the Speedgo and those kind of shoes. And if you were looking for that kind of protection, I still think you feel nimbler in a Hoka. I've loved using the Hoka Torrent, for example, for many years, like across runs of any distance, across like 2-day events in Scotland, short cross-country runs in the UK, and just the fact it is so much lighter and feels nimbler makes a big difference to me, and it has got a rocker in it as well that I think can produce quite a smooth, fast ride when you need to. So a couple of times I got locked in on the shoe, really liked it, rolled through runs nicely, but generally I just felt like, even when I'm running well in the shoe, there are probably better options, just a bit too much going on. There's a lot of individual elements here that are very good. Saucony, I think, can definitely refine their trail range. Maybe they keep this in as a max cruiser, but use some of those elements in a lighter, more stripped back trail shoe. I think there'll be some really good stuff to come down the line. But right now, the Endorphin Trail isn't the kind of slam dunk I was hoping it was going to be. It doesn't get me excited in the same way the Endorphin Speed and Pro road shoes have. But I think there's some good stuff there. Hopefully down the line, we'll see some great Endorphin Trail shoes. That's it, guys. That is our review of the Saucony Endorphin Trail. What do you think of it? Is it a shoe you're very keen to try out? If you're big fans of the road shoes, let us know in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we will see you next time.